maybe it's a very British thing, but I think conversations about remuneration they're not always easy. So if you're in a role right now and you want to get paid more, or you're in a role and you want to get promoted, what's your development plan, the job you're in? Have a really good look at it. That's part of your leverage for a conversation, because also that's your ticket out of a business if you're not happy.
Today's guest is a true powerhouse in the world of marketing. Pete Markey, the former Chief Marketing Officer at Boots UK and Ireland. He has an impressive career, spanning leadership roles at TSB Bank, Aviva, the Post Office, and more. Pete brings a wealth of experience across digital marketing strategy and beyond. He's a 5-time Marketer of the Year and a proud mentor shaping the next generation of marketing leaders. Pete, thank you so much for being my very first guest on the Strategic Salary Series. I really appreciate your time. Thank you for joining me.
It's great to be here today, Lucy. Thank you for inviting me on.
Very welcome. So let's jump straight into it. I have been following your career for quite a while. I am privileged to already know some of your story, and I would love for you to tell our listeners, let's take it right back to the beginning. How did you break into marketing, and what were some of those pivotal moments that shaped your career?
So yeah, great question. I didn't have a linear career in marketing to start with. So my degree in Southampton actually had bits of marketing, bits of international marketing. I actually wanted to work in PR or be a radio DJ, but it was through falling into a job in British Gas, which was just to pay the bills. I finished university. I wanted to stay in Southampton. I needed to pay the bills. I ended up working for British Gas, answering phones. And actually through a year and a half, 2-year process of moving around from the call center to working in training teams to running a sales team, I finally got a chance to apply for a job in head office. And the one I saw that excited me the most was working in marketing, and I applied and got that job. So the first job was analysing the performance of marketing campaigns. So whilst my degree was in marketing, I managed to pick up a job by virtue of the fact that I was in a business and an opportunity turned up, and that led me into a whole path of really great meetings and opportunities with different people down my career. So British Gas led to the AA, led to OneTel, telecoms company, all because the British Gas parent company owned those businesses. It created new opportunities for me. I then was able to work in insurance, working for an amazing boss I'd worked for before. That then took me on a global stage of marketing a big insurance brand, through to early days of retail with Post Office, into the tech innovation hub at Aviva, through to banking for TSB, and more recently at Boots. So I think the thing that's sort of summarized in my marketing journey is it's always been about a passion for customers, a passion for performance, and really nurturing and looking after amazing brands. So yeah, my career has become a marketing one, but started off in a very different way.
Thank you for sharing that with us. Now, you've had a fantastic career. Most people would say that you're an industry icon, like your career has been fantastic. One thing I would like to get into is, can you tell me something that I can't pick up from your CV? Or if I went onto your LinkedIn profile, who is the Pete behind the CMO title?
Oh, that's a great question. I think I'll pick a couple of examples. One is a little well known, the other less well known. But I think I've been someone that's ridden through failure in things going wrong as well. And if I use an example, is on my LinkedIn, there's a year I spent at the AA, and you look at it and go, oh yeah, you spent a year at the AA. That's fine, it's factually correct. But actually, I worked on a project there that went spectacularly wrong. So I worked on a golf business. The AA tried to get into golf loyalty, and it just was a bit of a disaster. And I ended up getting made redundant at the end of that period. Then my career was then saved by someone elsewhere in another part of the business that brought me into telecoms. But people won't know that I've ridden through that kind of that failed business scenario. And also my year I spent at Aviva, I didn't really enjoy that year as much as I would have liked to. I learned a lot, but I didn't enjoy what was going on culturally in the business at that time. And I left because I just wasn't enjoying it, having fun. And again, you wouldn't know that from my CV, but I guess the learnings from those two things. The first one is about coming out the other side of a failure and something going wrong in a work situation, and the second one is about making sure you're enjoying your work and enjoying it, and have got a passion for it. If you're not, go somewhere where you can reignite that spark. And I guess the big bit people do know about me is the fact that I've been doing improvised comedy for years, so I get my energy out of being creative. But they might not know in the last year I've been learning improvised singing, so I'm not a natural singer. So on top of those other two learnings, my other learning is to throw yourself out, stretching yourself and learning new things. And for me, completely making up songs on a stage with people and improvising in time musicals has been certainly a step into the unknown. So yes, don't feel afraid of whatever stage you're at in life in your career. picking up new challenges and learning new things.
I definitely did not know that. I knew that I guess I understood about the improv, but not singing. What led you to singing? Like that I'm quite taken aback. Why singing?
I ask myself that most days when I'm doing it. But it's done some. Dingbats Improv, who do the lessons that I've been going to for comedy, branched out into singing, and actually often the disciplines are put together in an improvised show. And I thought, you know what, I, I've never really tried singing as an adult, and I thought, why don't I do it? I might sing in the shower or the car, but I'm not in a
Yeah.
choir or anything. So I thought it was a way to stretch it. And I love the thought of actually, what if you had to create tunes or rhyming couplets and verses and choruses? What would that be like? So I did a basic, intermediate. I've now done the advanced course. I had so much fun doing it. But in essence, you are working with a pianist who plays a tune. You then either sing your own tune off that or stick to their tune, and you create the words when you create an entire thing together. So we recently performed in a show where we had to create an entire 20-minute musical, all from ideas the audience had given us. And it was just so much fun. And it's lovely engaging an audience, entertaining an audience, making an audience laugh and smile. And they know the jeopardy. They know the sheer jeopardy you're in
Yeah.
with. You are making up something that genuinely did not exist until it came into your head about a second ago, and that adds to the fun.
Thank you for sharing. I wasn't expecting that. So thank you for sharing.
All right.
This would not be the strategic salary series if we didn't touch on salary negotiation, how you advocate for yourself in the workplace. So I want you to take your mind back to your very first job. Did you negotiate your salary in that role?
I didn't in that role. I have in others. I started at really junior level when I was at British Gas. I think I was able to, when I got into sort of my second or third role, once I was off a contract role, I was able to, because I was moving between. So the best example is when I moved in the job to the head office in Staines, when I did the first marketing job, because it involved traveling some more of a distance from where I was and relocating. I was able to negotiate my package around the business relocated me to move to further towards Staines, the wonderful Staines where British Gas were based at the time. And so I did do some negotiation there, but it was on the basis of a lifestyle change for me and my family at the time, and needing to do that because it was quite a pivotal moment in my life. So yeah, I think when you need to do it, you need to do it, particularly if it's about quite seismic changes in your life or location. I think those are the moments when you don't have a choice other than have a really adult conversation about things.
And would you say that asking for what you need, whether that is salary, overall compensation package, does that get easier as you get more senior or more seasoned in your career?
I think it's just as hard. I think it's funny, isn't it? Maybe it's a very British thing, but I think conversations about remuneration they're not always easy. But I think it takes a lot of confidence to go and have them. I would always say that they're easier if you go with a fact base. I think the sort of, if you rocked up in anyone's office and said, I think I deserve to get paid more, it's a bit like, okay. I think but for these reasons, I benchmark my job and it should be this. Other people I know are paid this, or whatever those things are, or um, it's connected to my location or extra responsibility I've taken on. Those are all really grown up conversations. So I think, I think about what's your angle. Your angle can't just be I feel I need more. It's got to be what's the basis for that conversation? What's changed, or what other data can you bring to the table that just make that for us grown up? It's like any negotiation, isn't it? You sort of can't negotiate anything without having something as a hook or something to go and talk about. So I'd encourage people to go with as much of a fact base as they can get their hands on, and that at least enables that conversation.
That makes complete sense. And I think you're right. Having your receipts, as they so call it, is so important when approaching discussions like this. And also the confidence to even speak up. There will be a lot of listeners hearing what you're saying and I guess looking for that North Star. How do I even approach the discussion? So to have facts, to be confident in your approach, I think that's really important. I know more than anyone that sometimes things just don't go to plan. And I'd love to know, has there been a moment in your career where you've approached a promotion discussion or you've attempted to ask for more and it's just gone completely sideways?
Yeah, I have. It did get to a good place in the end, though. I think it probably a couple of jobs back, I was promoted into a role and I replaced someone, and the step up they were giving me to take on a huge amount of extra responsibility wasn't enough. And I'll be honest, I was quite down about it because it was less about the money. It was more about the point of I knew how much extra work I was taking on. And this just doesn't feel proportionally fair. So initially, I was exactly where your question is, which was I was disappointed. I thought, golly, I can't. And I had the conversation in the room when the person gave me the letter about the job, and I was like, oh, they could tell the look on my face. I was a bit, oh, and so I could have walked away from that quite deflated, and gone, well, that's it then, isn't it? I've got the set, the dream job I've always wanted at a salary that doesn't reflect the sort of 40-50% increase in workload and responsibility I'm taking on. And so, if it ended there, it would be exactly an answer to your question. But I decided this just isn't right. It's not fair. So I went back in the next day and said, look, you could tell by the look on my face, this was the HR director, I just wasn't happy. I just don't think this fairly reflects the work I've either put in or the work I'm going to put in and the commitment I'd make to this job. And therefore, I'd ask you to please reconsider this on this basis. And they did, and we got to a much better place. So that won't always be true for everyone in every situation, but it is worth, even if you don't win on the first pass, thinking about the second pass round. And this was for me particularly around just being able to clearly play back, saying, "Here's all the extra things you're asking me to do. That clearly can't be right or fair, can it?" And that's how I was able to win on that basis. But I appreciate it. Conversation's not always easy, but on that basis, that worked.
What was the deciding factor after you left the conversation initially that made you say, right, no, I'm actually going back in tomorrow to have this discussion? What conversation did you have with yourself?
I think it's particularly with a promotion in a job. I think you don't want to ever start any job or be promoted into a job where you are therefore then unhappy in the job. And I think that's the feeling I took away is right. So I could start this job, get paid an amount I feel is not sufficient, and therefore not enjoy the job. And that was the part of the other thing I said in the second conversation is to say, I want to start this job full of energy and enthusiasm. And actually, I'm going to end up starting it grumpy and grumbling. And that's not where you want me to be. I was a bit more delicate in the wording than that. You want people to start enthusiastic. You don't want people thinking, oh, golly, or feeling taken for granted that you're being asked to do a bigger job yet. The increase in salary doesn't reflect it. So there is a bit of self-worth bit, and I think there's a little bit of just wanting to really, I think, just make the business understand that you want to be in a positive mindset, and if you're not, then it will reflect on how you're able to start a new role.
Thank you for sharing. So before we close out, I have one final question for you. If you could leave our listeners with one piece of advice, so this is for anyone approaching a salary negotiation, or they might be considering a very similar conversation to you, what's one game-changing piece of advice that they can act on immediately?
So I would, first of all, I'd have a look at, your overall development plan for your job and what you're doing. So if you're in a role right now and you want to get paid more, or you're in a role and you want to get promoted, for me, it all starts with what's your development plan, the job you're in. Have a really good look at it. Where are you trying to go? Have the leadership around you bought into your career journey and your aspirations? Because that, for me, is step one in any conversation, because then you can show you've got trajectory behind where you're going. Therefore, you are growing as a leader, as an individual, you're taking on more, therefore, remuneration follows that. So to start with, that'd be step one, is go and look at all of that. And if you haven't got that, get it in place. That's part of your leverage for a conversation, because also that's your ticket out of a business if you're not happy and you want to go somewhere else, because your development is either in that business or it's somewhere else. And I've mentored people through the years who've after a while decided when a business doesn't meet their aspirations that they go somewhere else, and the development plan helps you with that. I aspire at this point to be doing this thing in my career. If I'm not, and the business doesn't meet my expectation, therefore there's always a choice for people to go and do that thing somewhere else. But I start with that development plan. The other bit within that, I think, with the development plan is just knowing you have value and worth, and therefore you are a marketable asset, and you have a choice. So therefore, build that. Make sure you've got that development plan. If you haven't, put it in place. But then be really clear, the value you bring to a business, and therefore what you feel you're worth, because that helps the conversation to have not cockiness or overconfidence, but assertiveness to have a different kind of conversation.
Pete, thank you for sharing your time with me. Thank you for sharing your insight with our listeners. I really appreciate it.
Well, thank you too. Thanks for having me on.
You're welcome. If this episode made you think differently, or questioned the way you approach a conversation, or the way you navigate your strategy moving forward, please do me a favor. Hit subscribe, like, and share a quick review. Your support will help other people discover this podcast and keep the conversation going.